Hello, everybody, and today I'm going to be talking about the newest big news that's happened in the NHL with the firing of Mike Babcock and the hiring of Sheldon Keefe. This is a crazy thing that happened, but the Leafs actually needed to do this because it was clear it was getting out of hand, and they could not do it. They just could not do this. They had to do it. It was there was no way they were not gonna fire him at this point because they had a decent game against Vegas, but they they can't keep losing these games because the Leafs are clearly a better team than what they've shown, which they've shown nothing. Like they've really shown nothing compared to what they are supposed to be, and they are supposed to be this offensive juggernaut team that you would think is at least a bit better defensively than last year and you would think, a couple of these guys would be better. Like Tyson Berry, I was so excited for this guy, and I know he's not a great defensive defenseman, but man, he has been so bad. I don't get it. Like Riley, and hell, Riley, he's been awful too. Like he has not been good enough at all. He has even been their best defenseman. Like one of the few positives this year has literally been Muzzin. And I mean, if you think that's still a bad trade, if you're a Leafs fan, then no, it's clearly he's he's pretty much been really good. There's there's been a couple bright spots, but there hasn't. And again, Matthews and Marner. Marner's currently injured, but he he has played decently, and Matthews, he's had a good season offensively, clearly, but they they still the whole team the whole team can clearly score more, and the team clearly can play better defense under a coach like Mike Babcock. There's just no reason for the way they're playing. So and obviously I can't put anything on Anderson. I mean, he's pretty much been Anderson this season. He's been really good, but it's really just but it's not going to make a difference because the Leafs have just been awful this season, and the NHL's really weird. This is the weirdest thing though. The Ottawa Senators are not just playing better hockey than Toronto and Tampa. They're literally like better now in the standings, which is insane. So that's a weird thing that's happening right now. But the Leafs clearly are just not playing good enough under Mike Babcock. They needed to make a change, and they have now. They're gonna play in Arizona, Matthews' hometown. Let's see if something happens, if there's a spark or anything, and it's it's just it's just crazy right now. They needed to do it. I didn't think he was on the hot seat ever since they lost to the Bruins in Game 7. Especially, the joke and the memes where he only got that amount of minutes in Game 7, where Sid Seixeiro on Sportsnet said it best. Matthews pretty much didn't play Game 7, which I thought was pretty hilarious. Because when you look at it, he basically didn't play the third period, so I still don't know what happened there. That it was just ridiculous what he did, but, you know, Mike Babcock, you know, it's not all Babcock's fault. It's clearly not. The players haven't been good enough, at all. A coach can't just, a team can't play this bad just because of a coach. But again, the players are not responding. They're not playing to where they should be. So they needed a coaching change now. Now. Now because Dubas really needed to do something. He has done something now. We can all shut up about the Babcock stuff because now everybody in Toronto, they're going to be looking at Dubas now saying, "Oh yeah, so now you got your guy in Keefe. You got your guy in Keefe. Now it's the fire Dubas if they can't get it together train," which is which is what everybody's going to be doing. It's not going to be the Babcock stuff. Now it's Dubas. And Toronto, there's always a guy they go to. Even if it's not a guy in office, which a guy in office will always be targeted in Toronto because Toronto's insane. But I know though, it's Jake Gardner, Larry Murphy, Brian McCabe, all those guys that have been targeted. But office guys are always targeted as well. And sometimes they deserve it. I'm not saying Babcock personally deserves being attacked, but Toronto's going to do what they do. And I was like, I'm a Leaf fan, and I was getting tired of Babcock, but at the same time, I respect the guy. He's probably a first ballot Hall of Famer in the builder category, or whatever category he would be in, to be honest. But you know, and he's still gonna make that $50 million contract. Like, that's insane money for a coach. And again, Babcock's never been fired. I mean, that's crazy, but he's a legendary coach and is a big part of the Leafs' success in the last few years. But something needed to change, and it has now. He's not a Leaf coach, and he's by far the best coach they've had since Quinn. Again, because Quinn, he lasted a long time in Toronto, and most coaches in Toronto, quite honestly, they don't last long. Like, quite honestly, in history, they do not last long. This, at least, was a decent tenure. Randy Carlyle, way worse. Now, as a Leaf fan, as Steve Dangle has said, it's way harder to have a team struggling under a coach like Mike Babcock and a team this good on paper. In the Carlyle and Wilson, and hell, even the Maurice days, the Leafs were supposed to suck, and did. They made the playoffs the 1 year with Carlyle, but the next year they collapsed. And because they clearly didn't have a good team on paper, and they had awful coaches. Carlyle may have won a cup, but he's not that good of a coach. He got fired again in Anaheim. He's not that good. And Ron Wilson, he's a decent coach at times with his teams, but he's clearly not that good. And the Leafs, again, they sucked back then. But now, the Leafs are supposed to be good, and they're sucking. And they also didn't have goaltending. I mean, Reimer was the best goalie they ever had in all those years. That is how bad the Leafs were. And they had bad coaches. Now they have Babcock. Well, they had Babcock. And look at the team on paper. It's supposed to be ridiculous. And Tampa is struggling too, but Tampa's not struggling as much. But I would say John Cooper's probably one of the other ones on the hot seat right now. But, the Leafs have to be playing better. And they had to do something. They fired Mike Babcock. Again, if I was in Dubas' shoes, I really couldn't make a different move. I would have to make this move. This is the only move that he could make. There's no other moves Dubas could make. There's really nothing. There's really nothing he could make. So I'm going to now break down, and I've seen a bit of it on TV and all the history of Sheldon Keefe and all this stuff. Because as a Leaf fan, I've followed the whole run he's had with the Marlies since 2014-15. 2015, I guess it's 2015-16 or whatever. It was after the 2015 run. Yeah, it was after the run they had. It was after that run, that 2015 run where the Marlies had Nylander and all these guys, and they made it to the first round but failed. Sheldon Keefe came in and basically created the greatest regular season in AHL history for the Marlies, and they went to the third round. 2016-17, they had another good season, but not even close, and they lose in the second round. 2017-18, I believe it was another one of the best regular seasons. I believe they said, as well, it was another 54-win season. This time it was different. They actually did it. So they won the championship, and Dubas was the GM. And 2019 was probably the most impressive run because they weren't supposed to actually go far at all, and they went to the third round. They gave the Charlotte Checkers that just won the Calder Cup 2019. Guess what? They were the hardest team to play against them, apparently. Like when Chicago Wolves, or I forget. I think that's the name of the AHL team in Chicago. They only won one game in the final against Charlotte. Charlotte was the best team by a mile in the regular season and the playoffs. And I'm not saying the Marlies, they could go far without Sheldon Keefe in 2020. They're like 11-2 or whatever. Like they've had a ridiculous good season. They can win without Sheldon, but you can't discard the resume. Sheldon Keefe has a ridiculous resume so far. Coach of the year, and guess where? Sault Ste. Marie, where Dubas used to GM. It seems like half these guys that come in the Leafs are Sault Ste. Marie type. Like you have to be a Sault Ste. Marie connection. There's always like a Sault Ste. Marie connection. There is always one. There is always a Sault Ste. Marie connection. There. So I'm saying. And as a Leaf fan, I'm very excited for sure. I hope he and the line and the lines are obviously they're going to be changing because Sheldon Keefe is he's going to have to change stuff. Like he's going to have to change stuff up. There is no way he doesn't change. Like he's going to be changing stuff up all the time. He's going to be changing stuff all the time. And as they've said on TV like yesterday, he has an attention to detail that they've been making just too much stupid plays in their back end. They have to have more attention to detail. And there's a lot of guys that used to play for the Marlies, and Sheldon Keefe coached them. They had Hyman, Nylander, Timashov, Trevor Moore. You go down the list. Travis Dermott and all these guys. Obviously, Kazuo and all these guys know Sheldon Keefe well. Like half the team. Like a lot of the players play for the Marlies, pretty much. And I'm sure all of them love them. And I saw a tweet today that said Bracco's success is due to a lot of Sheldon Keefe. And I think he's I think everybody just loves Sheldon. I just think a lot of people love Sheldon Keefe, and he's again, Babcock's respected to hell. Like everybody respects Babcock. Everybody's gonna respect him, but I'll leave a lot of guys like Sheldon Keefe. And just to say, I know Spets has actually been playing half decent the last few games, and he's been playing, but Babcock's gone, and Keefe, if Keefe likes Spezza, you think Spezza's safe? He might be more safe than we think, but he might still go to the minors potentially in a few months or whatever. But there's no Babcock, and I think that some of those players that Babcock doesn't like will probably be a bit happier today. That's what I think. And this was the plan, like that I said. Like I said a few years ago. This was probably the plan in the future, is to hire Sheldon Keefe as the head coach. And as Shanahan said, he's earned it. And yeah, Sheldon Keefe has earned the job to coach NHL. Sheldon Keefe has earned the job. And he's coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a huge task. And it's during the season that, it's not halfway, but it's midway through the season. He has to coach a team. So, it's a big task. And we'll see how he does. I hope he does well, because again, I'm a Leafs fan. So I want the Leafs to do better, obviously. They're pretty garbage right now. And I've always been, literally one of my favorite coaches in hockey is pretty much Sheldon Keefe. Again, I have been a fan of Babcock in my lifetime. But yet, guess what? I am tired of him coaching the Leafs because it's not working. A lot of Leaf fans are tired. But let's see how it goes. I hope this really works out. I think it should. And Sheldon Keefe, and again, I really like Sheldon Keefe. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he could do well. So that's all for this. See you in the next one.